The phone call came on a humid Sunday morning in Atlanta. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the half-empty coffee cup, when I asked the question that had been burning in my chest for weeks. "So, Darius," I said, my voice gentle but firm, "when is the date of your wedding? You and Rochelle have been talking about it forever, but you never told me when." On the other end of the line, there was a long pause. I could hear Rochelle giggling faintly in the background. Then her voice sliced through the silence like a knife. "Oh," she said, dripping with arrogance, "we got married 3 days ago. Just for special people." My breath caught in my throat. 3 days ago? I whispered. "Without telling me?" Rochelle laughed, unbothered. "We didn't want all that drama. It was private. Not everybody needed to be there." Not everybody. I felt my chest tighten. I had raised Darius with my own 2 hands after his father walked out. I sacrificed sleep, money, and even my own dreams to see him graduate, to buy his first car, to put him through college. And now, the woman who called herself his wife had the nerve to tell me I wasn't special people? "Put Darius on the phone," I demanded, my voice shaking. But Rochelle only sighed. "He's busy. Don't be so sensitive. Weddings aren't about parents anymore, they're about us." Then the line went dead. I sat there frozen, my hand trembling over the receiver. Rage boiled in my veins, but beneath it was something heavier, an ache, the kind only betrayal can carve into a mother's chest. For 3 days, my only son had been married. And I hadn't even known. 2 weeks later, my phone rang again. I answered with a cautious hello, expecting maybe Darius. Instead, it was Rochelle. Her tone was sharp this time, no fake sweetness. "The house rent is overdue. Did you transfer it?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," she snapped. "The landlord is calling every day. Darius said you'd help. Didn't you transfer it yet?" My chest tightened. The audacity of this girl. She had locked me out of my son's wedding, declared me unworthy, and now she was calling me for money? I took a slow breath, steadying my voice. "Didn't I tell you?" I said coldly. "Tell me what?" She hissed. "That I don't owe you a dime. If you wanted a husband, you should have chosen one who can pay his own bills." There was silence on the line, then the sound of Rochelle sucking her teeth. "Watch your mouth," she spat. "You think you're better than me just because you're his mama? You don't know who you're messing with." And with that, she hung up again. I sat back in my chair, my blood boiling. I knew then that this wasn't just about a wedding or rent. This was war. But before I could even plan my next move, whispers started floating through the family. My cousin Keisha called me late one night. "You didn't hear this from me," she said, lowering her voice. But Rochelle wasn't just dating Darius before they married. She had someone else on the side. A man with money. Folks say she still sees him. I gripped the phone tighter. My worst suspicion confirmed. If Rochelle thought she could humiliate me and use my son like a pawn, she was about to learn who she was really messing with. Because I wasn't just any mother. I was the mother who raised a man from nothing. I knew how to survive betrayal. And I knew how to fight. The war had just begun. The following Thursday evening, I stood by the window, staring at the Atlanta skyline while Rochelle's words replayed in my mind like poison. Asterisk, "Did you transfer it?" Asterisk, the arrogance in her voice was sharper than glass. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was Darius. "Ma," he began, his voice low, almost guilty. "About the rent." Rochelle didn't mean to sound harsh. We really need help. The landlord's threatening to evict us." "Evict you?" I asked, my stomach twisting. "Darius, I thought you had a good job. Where's your money going?" There was a pause. Then I heard Rochelle in the background, whispering furiously. Darius cleared his throat. "It's just been tight, Ma. Rochelle's between jobs. Bills stacked up. We'll pay you back." I swallowed the hurt that rose in my throat. This wasn't my son talking. This was Rochelle's script, and he was reading it word for word. "Darius," I said quietly, "are you asking, or is Rochelle telling you to ask?" Silence. Then the call ended. I clenched the phone so tight my knuckles whitened. That girl had turned my son against me, and she wasn't even hiding it anymore. By Saturday, the whispers from family circles had grown louder. My sister Denise dropped by unannounced, her face tight with concern. "You know they're lying, right?" she said as soon as she sat down. "That rent money? It didn't go to no landlord. Rochelle's cousin works at that salon on Cascade Road. She said Rochelle's been spending on designer bags and wigs, showing off like she's Beyoncé." My chest tightened. "While my son's out here begging for rent money?" Denise nodded. "That girl's playing him, and if you're not careful, she'll bleed him dry and drag you into it." I knew Denise was right, but hearing it still cut deep. The next day, I decided to confront them head-on. I drove to their apartment, a shabby two-bedroom in West End, and knocked hard on the door. Rochelle opened it, her face smeared with a lazy smile. "Well, look who finally decided to visit," she sneered. "Mother-in-law of the year." "Where's Darius?" I demanded. "Busy," she said, leaning on the doorframe. "Why? You come to drop off that rent money." I pushed past her into the living room. Darius was sitting on the couch, his shoulders hunched, his face pale with shame. "Darius," I said firmly, "tell me the truth. Did you pay the rent?" He shifted, his eyes darting to Rochelle. She folded her arms, glaring at me. He started. "She doesn't need to know our business," Rochelle snapped. I stepped closer, pointing a finger. "When it involves my money, I do need to know. Don't play me, Rochelle. I know the rent isn't overdue. I know exactly what you've been spending on." Her eyes widened, just for a second. Then she smirked. "So what if I like nice things? Darius wants his woman looking good. That's his job, and if he can't handle it, that's where you come in." I could feel my blood boiling. "You think I raised my son to be your ATM? To lie to his own mother for your shopping sprees?" Darius jumped up, holding his hands out. "Ma, please stop. You're making it worse." "Worse?" I shot back. "Son, open your eyes. This woman is using you. She's using us." Rochelle's voice turned sharp as a blade. "Don't talk about me like I'm not standing here. You just jealous because Darius finally has someone in his life who comes first, and it ain't you." The words hit me harder than a slap. Darius lowered his head, saying nothing. "Is that true?" I asked him, my voice trembling. "You really believe that?" He didn't answer. The silence was louder than any words. I stormed out, slamming the door behind me, but my heart was in pieces. My son was gone, swallowed whole by Rochelle's lies. But as I got into my car, I noticed something. Across the street, parked under a tree, was a sleek black Mercedes. And inside, a man in a crisp suit sat watching their building like a hawk. For a moment, our eyes met through the windshield. Then he started his car and drove away. Why was he watching their apartment? And more importantly, why did Rochelle's face flash in my mind the second I saw him? That night, my phone buzzed again. It was a text from an unknown number. "Ask your daughter-in-law who Marcus really is. Then you'll understand where the rent money went." My hands shook as I stared at the screen. Marcus. Another man. My son wasn't just being used. He was being betrayed in the worst way possible. And I was the only one who could stop it. The message burned into my phone screen like fire. "Ask your daughter-in-law who Marcus really is." I read it 3 times, my chest rising and falling with a mix of dread and fury. Rochelle's arrogance, the secret wedding, the rent scam. Suddenly, all of it had a name. Marcus. I didn't reply. I just sat in my bedroom, staring into the dark, plotting. If Rochelle thought she could play my son for a fool, she had no idea what kind of mother she was dealing with. By morning, I had made up my mind. I needed to see this Marcus for myself. 2 nights later, I drove back to Darius and Rochelle's building. I parked a few blocks away, hidden behind a row of trees. It didn't take long before I saw the black Mercedes roll up. Marcus stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed sharp enough for Wall Street. He wasn't just some side fling, He looked like money, power, danger. And then, like it was nothing, Rochelle walked out of the building. She wasn't dressed like she was heading to the store. No. She was in a short red dress, heels clicking on the pavement. She slid into the passenger seat of Marcus's car without hesitation. My stomach dropped. They didn't even try to hide it. The Mercedes pulled off, and I followed, keeping my headlights low. They drove to a fancy rooftop lounge downtown, one of those places with valet parking and velvet ropes. Rochelle stepped out, laughing, her hand brushing Marcus's arm like they were the only two people in the world. My blood boiled. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't a rumor. This was betrayal in its rawest form. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. My son was at home, probably eating noodles and stressing over bills, while his wife was out here parading like a queen with another man. I should have stormed inside, dragged her out by her wig, and exposed her for the snake she was. But I didn't. Not yet. Because revenge, I reminded myself, is best served cold. The next morning, I called Darius. My voice was calm, though my insides were fire. Son, I said, I need to see you. Alone. He hesitated. Rochelle's. Alone, I repeated. We met at a diner off Peachtree Street. Darius looked tired, his eyes shadowed, his clothes wrinkled like he hadn't slept. My heart ached seeing him like that. Ma, he sighed, if this is about money again. It's not about money, I cut in. It's about Rochelle. His jaw tightened. I don't want to hear it. You need to, I pressed. Because while you're out here breaking your back to provide, Rochelle's out there with another man. A man named Marcus. He froze, his fork clattering onto the plate. What did you say? You heard me. Marcus. Black Mercedes. Tall, clean-cut. I saw her with my own eyes. His face darkened, but not with the anger I expected. Instead, he shook his head. Ma, stop. You don't like Rochelle, and you'll say anything to get rid of her. She told me you'd pull something like this. My chest tightened. Darius, I wouldn't lie about this. Not to you. But he was already shaking his head, refusing to meet my eyes. You just want me back under your wing, Ma. But Rochelle's my wife now. She's my family. His words stung like knives. Before I could argue more, his phone buzzed. Rochelle's name flashed on the screen. He answered quickly, muttered a few words, then stood up. I gotta go, he said. And just like that, he walked out. I sat there trembling, my appetite gone, my heart split wide open. My son chose her lies over my truth. That night, the phone rang again. It was Keisha, my cousin, whispering like she was delivering state secrets. Girl, you won't believe what I just saw, she said. Rochelle and some man at Lenox Mall, dripping in designer. They weren't even hiding it. He was buying her shoes, bags, the whole nine. My blood turned to ice. Marcus, I muttered. Whoever he is, Keisha said, he ain't just a fling. He's funding her whole lifestyle. I hung up, pacing the living room. My instincts screamed that this wasn't just about cheating. This was about manipulation, power, and money. Rochelle was running a game, and my son was her pawn. But if she thought she was untouchable, she was wrong. 2 days later, fate handed me the proof I needed. I was walking out of the grocery store when I spotted Rochelle across the parking lot. She wasn't alone. Marcus was with her, carrying shopping bags, his hand resting on the small of her back like they were husband and wife. I froze, my cart rattling to a stop. And then, it happened. Rochelle turned, and our eyes locked. For a split second, shock flickered across her face. But then, just as quickly, she smirked. Like she wanted me to see. Like she was daring me to say something. Rage burned through me, but I bit my tongue. Instead, I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. Then another. Marcus's hand on her waist. The shopping bags. Rochelle's smug grin. Evidence. My hands shook as I drove home. I finally had the weapon I needed. That night, I called Darius again. Son, I said, my voice firm, come to the house. Now. I need to show you something. He sounded tired, reluctant, but he came. When he walked in, I placed the phone on the table and slid it across. Look. His brow furrowed as he stared at the pictures. Rochelle. Marcus. The bags. The hand on her waist. Ma, he whispered. It's real, Darius, I said. She's playing you. She's lying to you. And if you don't stop her, she'll destroy you. He stared at the screen, his face pale. For a moment, I thought I had finally broken through. Then his phone buzzed. Rochelle again. He glanced at the pictures one last time, then stood up, shoving the phone back at me. I don't believe it, he muttered. That could be anybody. You're just trying to come between us. And with that, he stormed out. My chest collapsed. He was too far gone. Rochelle had poisoned him so deep he couldn't even see the truth staring back at him. But what Darius didn't know, what Rochelle didn't know, was that I wasn't fighting this battle alone anymore. Because that night, another text came through from the unknown number. You don't know me, but I know Marcus. And if you want to bring Rochelle down, I'll help you. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. The message kept me awake all night. Asterisk, you don't know me, but I know Marcus. And if you want to bring Rochelle down, I'll help you. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. Asterisk. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Who was this person? And why were they so invested in Rochelle and Marcus? By morning, curiosity outweighed fear. I sent a reply. Where? The response came within minutes. Java House Cafe. 3 p.m. Don't bring anyone. When I arrived at the cafe, the air smelled of strong coffee and rain. I slid into a booth by the window, my nerves buzzing. A few minutes later, a man in a grey hoodie and jeans sat down across from me. You the one asking questions about Marcus? He muttered, glancing around nervously. I might be, I said. Depends who's asking. He lowered his hood, revealing sharp features and tired eyes. Name's Terence. I used to run with Marcus. Before I got smart. I folded my arms. And Rochelle. He smirked bitterly. She's Marcus's latest project. But not his first. My chest tightened. Project. Terence leaned in, his voice low. Marcus is a hustler. A scammer. He targets women, especially ones with access to money. He flashes the car, the suits, the champagne. Makes them feel like queens. Meanwhile, he's draining them dry. Rochelle? She's not just with him, she's working for him. My stomach dropped. Working for him? Terence nodded. She lures in men like your son. Marcus gets her to push for money, rent, bills, whatever. She drains them, feeds it back to him, and he keeps her draped in Gucci so she looks untouchable. It's a cycle. I've seen it too many times. I gripped the table until my knuckles ached. You're telling me my son is just part of their scam? Exactly, Terence said. And if you don't stop it, Marcus will bleed him until there's nothing left. Then they'll move on, like they always do. I left the cafe with my mind spinning. Rochelle wasn't just unfaithful, she was a con artist. And Darius was her prey. But how could I prove it? That night, I drove past their apartment again. Sure enough, Marcus's Mercedes was parked outside. I sat there in the dark, my anger simmering, when my phone buzzed with another message. It was from Terence. Check your email. Sent you proof. I opened my inbox, and my heart nearly stopped. Screenshots of bank transfers, receipts, text messages between Rochelle and Marcus. Asterisk, got another $800 out of him. He bought the story. Asterisk. Asterisk, don't forget to ask about his mama's savings. That's where the real money at. Asterisk. Asterisk, after next month, we move on. He too clingy. Asterisk. My vision blurred with rage. My son's life was a game to them. A script. And I was next on their list. The next evening, I confronted Rochelle. I didn't call first. I didn't knock. I walked straight into their apartment while Darius was still at work. Rochelle was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, annoyed. What are you doing here? I dropped a folder of printed emails and screenshots onto the coffee table. Explain this. Her eyes flickered over the papers, and for the first time, I saw something crack in her facade. Fear. But only for a second. Then she smirked, tossing the papers aside. So? You've been snooping. Doesn't change nothing. Doesn't change. I stepped closer, my voice trembling with fury. You're scamming my son. You're robbing him blind while sleeping with another man. Rochelle stood, her chin high, her voice dripping venom. Your son's a grown man. If he's dumb enough to believe whatever I say, that's on him. Maybe if you raised him stronger, he wouldn't be so easy to use. The words hit like bullets. I wanted to slap her, but I clenched my fists instead. You listen to me, Rochelle. I don't care what game you're playing. I'm going to expose you. And when I do, you'll wish you never crossed me. She laughed, a cold, hollow sound. Expose me? To who? Darius? He doesn't believe you. To the police? Please. Marcus has friends everywhere. You try to fight us, and you'll lose. Then she leaned in close, her whisper cutting through me like ice. Besides, what makes you think Marcus doesn't already have something on you? I stormed out, my hands shaking. But her words echoed in my head long after I drove away. What did Marcus have on me? That night, I got my answer. A thick envelope slid under my front door. No name, no return address. Inside were photos, me, sitting in my car outside Rochelle's building, following her to the lounge, snapping pictures at the mall. And a note. Stalking is a crime. Next time, the police will know. Stay out of this. My blood ran cold. They were watching me, too. The next day, Darius showed up at my door, Rochelle at his side. His face was stormy, hers smug. Ma, he said, shoving the same envelope at me, what is this? Rochelle says you've been harassing her. Following her. Taking pictures. Darius, it's not what it looks like. She's your wife, Rochelle cut in, looping her arm through his. If you can't respect that, maybe you don't need to be in his life at all. The words stung. Son, I pleaded, you don't understand. She and Marcus. But he held up a hand. Enough, Ma. I'm tired of the lies. If you can't accept my marriage, then, maybe we need space. My knees went weak. My son. My only son. Choosing her lies over my truth. Rochelle smirked at me one last time before pulling him away. And in that moment, I knew the fight had just shifted. This wasn't about rent money anymore. Or even cheating. This was war. And Rochelle was winning. That night, my phone buzzed with another message from Terrence. They think they've shut you down. But I've got something big. Proof that could bury both Marcus and Rochelle for good. Meet me tomorrow. And bring courage. This won't be easy. The rain came down in sheets the next morning as I parked outside the abandoned warehouse Terrence had chosen. My gut twisted, every instinct told me this was risky. But if Terrence truly had the proof he promised, it might be the only way to save my son. I stepped inside, the echo of my footsteps bouncing off the damp concrete walls. The air smelled of rust and mildew. In the far corner, Terrence stood with a manila envelope clutched in his hand. You came, he said, relief flickering across his face. What is this? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He handed me the envelope. Everything. Bank accounts, fake IDs, even police reports Marcus thought he buried. Rochelle's fingerprints are all over it. Together, they've scammed at least 6 men in the last 2 years. Your son isn't the first, just the latest. My hands shook as I flipped through the documents. Transfers from Darius's account. Rochelle's signature on leases and contracts under fake names. Pictures of Marcus with different women, each one looking just as trapped as my son. This is enough to put them both in prison, I whispered. Terrence nodded grimly. Yeah. But don't think they'll go down without a fight. Marcus is dangerous. He's got people. And Rochelle? She's colder than ice. She'll cut your son off from you forever if she feels cornered. I looked up at him. So why help me? Why risk this? His jaw tightened. Because I was one of Marcus's pawns once. He used me, threw me away. And Rochelle. She ruined someone I loved. I couldn't stop it then. But maybe I can now. Before I could answer, the sound of tires screeching outside made us both freeze. Did you tell anyone to meet us? Terence whispered. I shook my head. The warehouse doors flew open. Marcus stormed in, flanked by two large men. Rochelle followed behind, dressed in designer heels that clicked against the concrete like a metronome of doom. Well, well, Marcus drawled, his smile cruel. Looks like Terence couldn't resist running his mouth again. And you, he turned to me, his eyes narrowing, you just don't know when to quit, do you? Rochelle smirked, her gaze cutting through me like glass. Didn't I warn you? You can't win this game, old woman. Terence stepped forward, trying to shield me. Back off, Marcus. You don't scare me anymore. Marcus chuckled, low and dark. Oh, Terence. You never did learn. Talking is dangerous. And you've been talking a lot. One of his men moved fast, too fast. A fist connected with Terence's jaw, sending him sprawling to the ground. Papers from the envelope scattered like leaves across the floor. I screamed, rushing toward him, but Marcus grabbed my arm, squeezing hard. You think you can expose us? He hissed in my ear. You think anyone will believe you? By the time we're done, you'll be the one in jail. Stalking. Harassment. Maybe even assault. Rochelle's been documenting every move you've made. Rochelle leaned close, her perfume cloying. We already planted the seeds with Darius. He thinks you're losing it. One push, and he'll cut you off for good. Then we'll bleed him dry without you in the way. Rage boiled in my chest. You monsters. You won't get away with this. Marcus shoved me back, laughing. Watch us. They gathered the scattered documents, stuffing them into Rochelle's bag. Then Marcus gave Terence one last kick before nodding to his men. Let's go. She's not worth the mess, yet. They left as quickly as they came, their car engines roaring into the storm. I dropped to my knees beside Terence, who groaned, blood trickling from his lip. Are you okay? I asked, my voice shaking. He nodded weakly. I'll live. But they've got the files now. That was our shot. No, I said firmly, helping him sit up. That was just one shot. We'll find another. There has to be more. Terence met my eyes, determination hardening his expression. Then we move faster. Marcus won't stop until he's destroyed us. We've got to hit him first. The next few days blurred into chaos. Darius stopped answering my calls. When I finally showed up at his apartment, Rochelle answered the door, blocking me like a guard dog. He doesn't want to see you, she said smoothly. You've done enough damage. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of my son, sitting on the couch, head in his hands, looking broken. My heart ached. Darius, I called softly. Baby, please. Listen to me. She's lying to you. She and Marcus. Go home, Ma, he interrupted, his voice hoarse. Just go home. Rochelle smirked, shutting the door in my face. The sound of the lock clicking was like a knife in my chest. That night, I sat in my dark living room, staring at the wall. My phone buzzed with a new message. It was a video. I pressed play, and froze. It was me, walking into Rochelle's apartment uninvited, shouting, slamming papers on the table. The clip ended with Rochelle's voice, trembling just enough to sound believable. Asterisk, she threatened me. I don't feel safe. Asterisk. Attached was a note. Try us again, and this goes straight to the cops. I dropped the phone, my breath coming in short gasps. They were framing me. And the worst part? It was working. 2 nights later, Terence called, his voice urgent. I found something. Marcus isn't as clean as he thinks. There's a stash house, documents, cash, even weapons. If we get pictures, that's enough to take to the police. Meet me tomorrow. Midnight. I hesitated, fear prickling at my skin. But then I thought of Darius, lost in Rochelle's trap. I'll be there, I said. The stash house was on the edge of town, an old two-story building with boarded windows. We crept inside through the back, flashlights sweeping across boxes of files, duffel bags stuffed with cash, and laptops still humming. "This is it," Terence whispered. "This is everything." I snapped photos as fast as my hands could move, heart pounding. Each picture felt like a weapon, each click of the camera a strike back at Rochelle and Marcus. Then a floorboard creaked upstairs. Terence froze. "We're not alone." Before I could react, a voice rang out. Cold. Familiar. "Well, well," Rochelle drawled, stepping into the light at the top of the stairs. Marcus loomed behind her, a pistol in his hand. "I told you, old woman," she sneered. "You don't know the game you're playing. And tonight? You lose." Marcus raised the gun, aiming straight at me. The beam of Marcus's pistol glinted in the dim light, steady, unflinching, aimed right between my eyes. My breath caught, my chest tightening as though the bullet had already torn through me. Rochelle leaned against the railing at the top of the stairs, her smile smug, cruel. "See, Ma, this is the problem. You don't know how to stay in your lane. You think you can outplay me? Outplay us? You're just an old woman clinging to a son who's already mine." "Rochelle, don't." Terence stepped forward, his hands raised, but Marcus swung the gun toward him. "Move another inch," Marcus snarled, "and I'll drop you right here." The air felt thick, suffocating. My pulse thundered in my ears. Terence shot me a look, subtle, quick, stole them. I swallowed, forcing steel into my voice. "You're pathetic, both of you. You prey on people's love, their trust, and you call that power? That's weakness. My son may not see it yet, but the truth always comes out." Rochelle's smile faltered, just slightly. Marcus's grip on the gun tightened. "You really don't get it," Rochelle hissed. "We already won. Darius believes me. He thinks you're dangerous. And when Marcus files the restraining order tomorrow, you'll be out of his life for good." My knees wobbled, but I locked my stance. "If you kill me here, you'll never get away with it. Too many people know. Too many people are watching." Marcus laughed, cold and deep. "Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. People like you vanish every day." He started to squeeze the trigger. Crash. The back door burst open, flooding the room with light. Police officers stormed in, weapons raised, voices booming. "Drop the gun. Hands where we can see them." Marcus froze. Rochelle's eyes went wide with shock. Terence let out a ragged laugh. "Guess I forgot to mention. I made a call before we came here." Marcus roared, hurling the gun across the room before two officers tackled him to the floor. Rochelle tried to run, but another officer caught her, yanking her arms behind her back. The stash house filled with chaos, shouts, cuffs snapping shut, evidence bags filling with cash and files. I sagged against the wall, tears burning my eyes. It was over. Or so I thought. At the precinct later that night, the truth began unraveling piece by piece. The files we'd found in the stash house were a goldmine: bank statements, forged documents, photos tying Marcus and Rochelle to fraud schemes across Atlanta. The detective in charge, a tall woman named Harris, flipped through the evidence with grim satisfaction. "This is enough to bury Marcus for 20 years. Rochelle too, if she doesn't start talking." I leaned forward, desperate. "What about my son? He doesn't know, he believes her lies. She'll try to twist this, even from jail." Harris nodded. "We'll bring him in. Show him the evidence. Sometimes it takes seeing it with their own eyes." But I wasn't so sure. Rochelle had poisoned him deep. The next morning, I found myself sitting across from Darius in a sterile interview room. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. "Ma," he said softly, "what is this? Why am I here?" "Rochelle told me. She said you were making things up." I slid the evidence folder across the table. "Baby, I need you to look. Really look." He hesitated, then opened it. His hands shook as he flipped through the documents. His own bank records drained dry, Rochelle's name on fake leases, photos of her wrapped around Marcus in expensive restaurants. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "This This can't be real. She said, she told me. She lied, I said firmly, tears sliding down my cheeks. She's been lying since day one. Darius, she never loved you. She used you. And Marcus? He was never just a friend. He's her partner, in crime, in bed, in everything. Darius's chest heaved, his face crumbling. I defended her. I turned against you for her. God, Ma, what did I do? I reached for his hand, squeezing tight. You were blinded by love. That's not your fault. What matters now is what you do next. For the first time in months, he looked at me, really looked. And I saw the boy I'd raised flicker back into his eyes. Ma, he whispered, I'm so sorry. But peace didn't last long. That afternoon, Rochelle demanded to speak with Darius from her holding cell. Against my protests, Detective Harris allowed it, with me watching behind the glass. Rochelle's hair was messy, her face pale without makeup, but her eyes still burned with venom. Baby, she crooned as soon as she saw him, don't believe her. She set me up. That man Terrence? He's obsessed with me. He staged all this to break us apart. You know me, Darius. You know I'd never hurt you. Darius's jaw tightened. I saw the evidence, Rochelle. The accounts. The pictures. Marcus. Her mask cracked for the first time. Panic flashed in her eyes. But she recovered fast, leaning closer. So what? You think your mama's innocent? She hates me, Darius. She's jealous. She'll say anything to destroy us. Who do you really trust, her or me? The room went dead silent. I pressed my hand against the glass, whispering though he couldn't hear me, choose right, baby. Choose right. Darius lowered his head, silent for what felt like forever. Then he lifted his eyes, filled with tears, and said softly, I trust my mother. Rochelle's face twisted, rage bubbling up like acid. She lunged at the glass, screaming, You'll regret this. Both of you. You hear me? I'll burn everything you love to the ground. Guards dragged her back, her voice echoing down the hallway like a curse. I wrapped my arms around my son, holding him as he shook. But inside, dread gnawed at me. Rochelle wasn't the type to break quietly. That night, my phone buzzed with a new message. No name, just a video file. I pressed play, and my blood turned to ice. It was my house. My front porch. Filmed from the shadows. The camera panned slowly, deliberately, before cutting off. Attached was a message. You think it's over? This is just the beginning. The video haunted me all night. Every creak of the house made me jump, every shadow in the corner felt like eyes staring back at me. By dawn, I hadn't slept a wink. I called Detective Harris as soon as the sun rose. Someone's watching my house, I said, my voice raw with exhaustion. They sent me a video. They know where I live. Send it to me, she replied. Her tone was clipped, professional, but I heard the tension underneath. We'll trace the number. Keep your doors locked. Don't go anywhere alone. I hung up, pacing the kitchen. Rochelle was behind bars, but Marcus still had allies. And someone had been close enough to film my porch without me even noticing. When Darius came downstairs, his face pale from lack of sleep too, I forced a smile. Morning, baby. Morning, he muttered, grabbing coffee. Then he looked at me. She won't stop, will she? Even in jail, she won't stop. I shook my head. Not until she has nothing left to fight with. 2 days later, the threat became real. I was pulling into the driveway when I noticed my front door cracked open. My chest seized. I hadn't left it that way. Slowly, I pushed it open, every nerve in my body on edge. The living room was in shambles. Drawers yanked out, cushions sliced open, papers scattered across the floor. Someone had ransacked my home. And on the coffee table, in the middle of the chaos, sat a single envelope with my name scrawled in thick black marker. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a photo, Rochelle, smiling smugly, sitting in what looked like a prison common area. On the back, a message was written in red ink. You can cage a lioness, but you can't cut her claws. Watch your back. I staggered back, clutching the envelope. She had orchestrated this from jail. She still had power. Detective Harris arrived minutes later, surveying the wreckage with grim eyes. This wasn't just a break-in. This was a warning. From Rochelle. I whispered. More like for Rochelle, Harris said. She has people on the outside. Loyal ones. Looks like she sent them to remind you she's still pulling strings. My stomach knotted. So what now? I just wait for her next move. Harris's eyes hardened. No. We tighten protection. And we build a case so strong she never breathes free air again. But inside, I knew Rochelle wasn't going down without dragging us through hell first. Later that week, Darius and I went to court for Rochelle's bail hearing. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, cameras flashing from the media gallery. This case had drawn attention. Fraud, betrayal, violence. People wanted blood. When Rochelle was brought in, chains around her wrists and ankles, the room went silent. She looked thinner, harder, her beauty sharpened into something almost feral. But her eyes found mine, and they burned with hatred. The judge reviewed the evidence, then spoke. Given the severity of the charges and the defendant's demonstrated connections outside this court, bail is denied. A murmur rippled through the room. Rochelle's face twisted with fury. She stood abruptly, her chains rattling, and shouted across the courtroom, "This isn't over. You hear me? You can't kill a queen." Officers dragged her back, but her voice echoed even after she was gone. I exhaled slowly, my heart hammering. She was desperate now. And desperation made her dangerous. That night, another message arrived on my phone. This time, it was a voice recording. Rochelle's voice, low and venomous. Asterisk, if you think prison can stop me, you're dumber than I thought. You took my freedom, so I'll take everything that matters to you. Darius. Your home. Your peace. Watch me. Asterisk. I played it over and over, my skin crawling. Darius walked in, hearing the last part. His face went pale. She's still threatening us? How, Ma? How does she still have this kind of reach? I gripped his hand, my voice shaking. Because she planned for this. Rochelle's the kind of woman who sets traps months before she needs them. She's not fighting alone. Marcus and his network are her army. His eyes filled with tears. God, Ma, I brought this into our lives. I let her in. No. I squeezed tighter. She did this. Don't blame yourself. But now we fight back harder. 2 days later, Harris called with news. We traced the video of your porch. The phone belonged to one of Marcus's associates, Andre King. He's got a record as long as my arm. We're moving to pick him up tonight. Relief flooded me. So that means, Harris cut in, we might finally start cutting off Rochelle's outside support. But you need to be careful. Cornered animals lash out. I nodded, even though my hands shook. That night, as rain lashed against the windows, Darius and I sat in the living room together. For the first time in months, he leaned against me like he had when he was a boy. Ma, he whispered, what if she really does try to hurt us? I kissed his forehead. Then we'll stand together. She won't win. The words felt strong, but inside, a chill ran through me. Because I knew Rochelle, and she always had one more move waiting. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Another video. My stomach dropped as I pressed play. This time, it wasn't my house. It was Darius. Sleeping in his bed, filmed through a cracked window. The camera lingered on his face, peaceful and unaware, before cutting off. My scream tore through the silence. The sight of my son's face on that video, peacefully asleep, filmed by someone standing outside his window, froze my blood. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. Darius. I cried, rushing into his room. He jolted awake, confused. Ma? What's wrong? I shoved the phone into his hands. His eyes widened as he watched, the color draining from his face. Oh my God, he whispered. They were here. Inside the yard. Panic clawed at my chest. Rochelle's threats weren't idle. Even locked behind bars, she was reaching into our lives, inch by inch. "This ends tonight," I whispered. Detective Harris came within the hour, flanked by 2 officers. She reviewed the footage, her jaw tightening. "This is escalating. She's not just threatening anymore. She's making moves. We'll put you both under protective detail, but we need to act now. Rochelle's trial is weeks away. If we let this drag on, something worse will happen." "Then what do we do?" I demanded. "We flip her network," Harris said firmly. "We take down the people still working for her on the outside, Marcus's associates, anyone delivering her messages. Without them, Rochelle's just another inmate." I nodded, though fear still gnawed at me. But inside, a spark lit. Rochelle thought she could terrorize me into silence. She thought wrong. That night, the plan was set. Harris had Andre King in custody, the same man who filmed my porch. He'd cracked under questioning, giving up Marcus's stash of burner phones used to relay Rochelle's orders. Through those phones, the police tracked Rochelle's inner circle. 3 more of Marcus's men, and a woman who smuggled messages into the prison. We were finally pulling apart the web. But Rochelle wasn't done playing. 2 nights later, we were jolted awake by the sound of shattering glass. I grabbed Darius's arm, dragging him to the floor as something hissed across the room. Smoke began filling the air, thick and acrid. "Get down," I shouted, coughing, eyes burning. Someone had thrown a tear gas canister through our window. Police sirens wailed in the distance, but the attackers were gone before help arrived. When the smoke cleared, a spray-painted message glared across our wall in dripping red paint. "Queens never fall." Darius slumped against the wall, coughing, tears streaking his face. "She's going to kill us, Ma. She's really going to kill us." I held him tight, rage and fear battling inside me. "Not if I kill her first," I whispered, my voice shaking. At dawn, Harris called. "We've got Rochelle on monitored calls. She slipped up. She arranged a hit on you two, using Marcus's last contact. We intercepted the order. If we move now, we can nail her to the wall for conspiracy to murder." It was the opening we needed. The police set a trap, wiring Terrence, still nursing bruises from Marcus's men, to pose as a willing recruit. He agreed to deliver Rochelle's next message in exchange for protection. That night, with Darius and me hidden under protective guard, Terrence walked into the prison undercover. Through the surveillance feed, I watched as Rochelle slid into the visiting booth, her wrists chained but her smile sharp as a blade. "You got the job done," she purred. Terrence nodded, slipping her a fake phone rigged by the police. "They won't bother you again." Rochelle smirked, lifting the phone to her ear. "Good. Because if that old woman and her boy keep breathing, I swear." The line cut. Officers swarmed the booth, tearing Rochelle away from the phone as she screamed and fought. Detective Harris turned to me, her eyes hard. "That's it." Recorded in her own words. "She's finished." But even as Rochelle was dragged back to her cell, her voice carried through the hall, venom dripping from every word. "You think you've won? You think this ends me? Queens don't die, they multiply. I'll haunt you until your last breath." The echo sent chills down my spine. The weeks that followed were a blur. Rochelle's trial made headlines across Atlanta. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder, witness intimidation. The charges stacked higher than even her pride. Darius sat beside me every day in court, his hand gripping mine, his face pale as we watched the woman he once called his wife unravel on the stand. When the guilty verdicts rolled in, the courtroom erupted. Rochelle stood silent at first, her face a mask of rage. Then, as officers moved to escort her away, she turned, her eyes locking on mine. "This ain't over," she hissed. "Not today. Not ever." And then she was gone, swallowed by the system she thought she could outsmart. Months later, the house was quieter. Darius was rebuilding, therapy, work, slowly piecing himself together. One evening, as the sun set over the skyline, he sat beside me on the porch. "Ma," he said softly, "I don't know how to thank you. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be trapped in her lies." I smiled, though tears pricked my eyes. That's what mothers do, baby. We fight, even when the world tells us not to. For the first time in a long time, peace settled over me. But as I stood to go inside, I noticed something on the porch railing. A single playing card. The Queen of Spades. No note. No explanation. Just the card, resting there like a whisper. My chest tightened. Rochelle was locked away, but her reach, her shadow, it was still out there. And I knew deep down, this war might never truly end. Rochelle may be behind bars, but the Queen of Spades on the porch proves one thing: her legacy of betrayal and revenge lives on. Is this truly the end, or just the beginning of another nightmare? Stay tuned for what comes next. My love, did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.